going to start with a quote. If you have not, how many of you have Netflix, first of all? Yay? Okay. I invite you to find a documentary by Brene Brown. It's her newest one, and I'm going to start with a quote. And I'm going to share a little story before, just because it really touched my heart. So I teach on Monday night, and when I get home, I just kind of want to get home and I want to go to bed because I have to be back here tomorrow. And I walked in and my husband said, "Oh, thank goodness you're home early. I found this documentary, I watched the whole thing, and I want you to watch it with me." And so we sat down and watched Brene Brown. So next to Edwene Gaines, I think she was one of my most favorite people because she talks about where the rubber meets the road. And there's no getting away from truth in either one of their eyes. So I want to share this. And this quote isn't by Brene Brown. This quote is by Teddy Roosevelt. "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring to do greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Why do I share that if I am talking about discovering your life's direction and purpose? Because I believe all of us innately know what our divine purpose is. And it's out of fear of being judged that we don't do it. What will people think? What if I fail? And I want to tell you that people who achieve greatly fail, and they get up and they do it again. I can hit it out of the park on a Sunday, and there are times I can watch the ball roll down the steps and kind of, it doesn't mean I'm not going to get back up here the next Sunday. Every Sunday I do my best. It doesn't always mean every Sunday I am fully in my body and like, whoa. Every single one of us deserves to live our passion. And so what that quote told me was exactly the same thing that it told Brene Brown. Do not listen to critics that are sitting in the cheap seats. Do not. They have no business judging you. It's very easy, especially now, to comment. I will share with you something that breaks your heart at the very first of the documentary. She talks about doing her TED Talk. And she was freaking out because Brene Brown, up until that point, had pretty much played small. And she came home and she's freaking out. And her husband said to her, "Oh, who's going to watch it, Brene? It's a TEDx. It's not even a TED Talk. It's a TEDx talk. It was at the University of Houston. You know 100 of the people that are sitting in the audience already." She goes, "Oh yeah, you're right. Nobody's going to see it." And then she found out it was on YouTube. So she's kind of freaking out, and her husband said, "So what? People are going to type in Brene Brown, I forget, but a word. Shame. Brene Brown, shame. Who's going to type that in?" So she pulls up YouTube, and it's like 4 people are looking at it, 40 people are looking at it, 400 people are looking at it, 4 million people are looking at this video. And the comments that she sees are about her body image, about how she looks on stage, about how dare her. She's got a degree, by the way, in shame study. She's an introvert. She locked herself away for years to find out about shame. And so what she realized through the process and how she found the Teddy Roosevelt quote. And so that's what she came to know, is if you're not in the arena, do not give me your opinion. I don't want to hear it. Get in the arena with me and then tell me how I'm doing. So I think that is so rich, because I think so many of you absolutely know, if you're not living your passion already, you know. You've heard the call, you've hung up on it. It's called again, you've disconnected the phone. You've changed your phone number. And yet it will not give up. It's now knocking on your door, because your heart is like scrunched up, because it knows. It knows. It wants to be open. So I love doing Sunday service, because it gives me an opportunity to be awake and aware that what's going on around me. So I plan what I'm going to talk about, and then I just stay open for that to change. And usually it changes because I have time in the morning to watch CBS Sunday Morning. So one of the things that to find your purpose is to really just sit and go through your life. And usually our purpose, we can recognize it when there's pain attached. Something has happened in our life that has been extremely painful, and we want to fix that, or we want to do something so nobody else needs to do that. So I would say what I have discovered with my divine purpose is I want people to know that they are worthy. I want people to understand that they truly are God in form, that they are not born of sin, they are born of delight, and that they are here to magnify that delight. That is why I am here. I'm not going to share how I got here. I'm going to share a different story that I saw on CBS Sunday Morning this morning. I do not know the gentleman's name. I do know that he was working he was working on a hotline for suicides. And he found out as he listened that everyone he talked to had a shame story, a shame secret that they were not willing to share with anybody. And once they shared it, it kind of released some of the self-doubt, some of the hatred that they'd been carrying around about themselves. You know, if you are in a 12-step program, it is one of the biggest gifts it gives us, is that you create a list of all your shame. And then you sit with somebody and you share it with them. Because if you don't share it, it will eat your heart, literally. It will cause dis-ease in your body, literally. And so one of the things to finding your purpose is not only to look at things in your life that touched your heart that you want to change, but then to find out what energizes you. So this gentleman is on the suicide hotline, and he didn't say whether it energized him or not, but he thought, I wonder how many people out there have a secret that they carry around with them that they have never shared with anybody. So he made up postcards. And he invited people. He would hand it to them and he would say, hi, I would like you to share your secret with me. Just write it on this postcard. Don't identify who you are. And then he started to scan them into his computer. And then on Sundays, he has Secret Sunday. And he posts them for people to read. Now he's got an art exhibit of these postcards in San Diego. And they said it's like going into a cathedral because everybody is silent because they're reading all of these people's secrets. Why? Because everybody's secret somebody here can identify with. There is not a secret that somebody has that somebody else hasn't lived through. And that was one of the things, one of the gifts that one of the women said, that she had been abused by her grandfather since she was a small child. And she was so filled with shame. And her therapist was brilliant, because this man has also written books. Basically has taken these cards and done a book. And in it, she found somebody's secret. Somebody shared that they had been abused by their grandfather. And in that moment, her whole life shifted, because no longer was she filled with shame. She realized, this isn't just my story. I'm not the only person in the world this has happened to. I'm not different. I'm not unlovable. And so it was like, how many of us hold on to secrets? How many of you ever sat with somebody? I think the brilliance, I don't know if every sponsor says this, the brilliance of my sponsor was, as I poured out my insides full of all this shame. And when I was done, I looked at her and I'm crying. And she looked back at me and grabbed my hand and laughed and said, seriously, Gayle, is that all you got? And it was brilliant. It was brilliant, because it was like, oh, I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. So then to get energized. So some of you may be living your passion and maybe it's not energizing you. So find out what energizes you. How do you find that makes your soul go, yes? I didn't know I wanted to be what we call a pulpit minister. I found this philosophy. It absolutely changed my life. Absolutely. I mean, I went through everything that was required to be a practitioner. I went right into practitioner studies. I took a year off and I went right into ministerial school. And I have never looked back, because every day it enriches and changes my life still. Absolutely. And yet, what I know to be true is that my idea was, I'm going to write a book. Because a book would look good with Reverend Gayle Dillon across the bottom, right? Instead of Gayle Dillon, practitioner, or just Gayle Dillon. That was my whole idea. And then I love how Spirit works. So I'm living in Washington, and then Paul and I decide to move to Santa Fe. And I am still in ministerial school up here. And we're in a homiletics class, which is you're learning how to speak. I was in the class with Heather and many other people, Lita Mullen, Steve Duggan. I'm starting with his last name instead of his, and Sherry Landau, all there. And in January, I'm supposed to fly up for the final class. And it's snowing in Santa Fe. My husband has gone to Massachusetts because his father has had a serious accident, and he needed to be there with him. And I'm thinking, I've got 2 dogs. I know nobody in Santa Fe. I've been there maybe 45 days. I can't go. So I wrote to Reverend Susie and I said, I can't go. So she talked to the dean of the school, and the dean of the school said, we'll give her 3 options. She can retake the entire class. I know, that's off the table. I forget what the second one was, and the third one was, or she can find 3 churches to speak at in and around New Mexico, and hand out a list of things so people can rate how she did. And I thought, that sounds like fun. Now understand, literally, I had spoke in front of my students, my peeps, the people I was in, not my students, but we were students together. And this seemed like a good idea to me. Why? I have no idea, but it did. And Reverend Susie, who always, like when I told her I was going to ministerial school, she asked me what took me so long. Remember, I only took a year off. But, she just always knew. And so the dean thought that I was going to do something entirely different. And Reverend Susie said, no, she's going to go speak at 3 churches. So the first church I talked at, there were 15 people. And they were so loving when I was done. Just, oh, you're fabulous, you're going to do great, and all of that. It felt really, really good. The second church I talked at, which was Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living, had 2 services. The first service was at 8:30 in the morning, and there were 100 people. Remember, I had now spoke to 15 people. So I get up on stage and I thank them all for being there, and I say this is the largest group of people I have ever spoke with. And and then I went on and talked and blah blah blah. And then you get a break, and then I come back and I step up on stage, and there's 350 people in the audience. And these people have had coffee and breakfast. So the first thing I said was, wow, I thought there were a lot of people at the morning service, and they all laughed, and we had a really good time, and they were really, really supportive. They lined up to encourage me. And what I knew in that moment was change of path. To this day, I have not written a book. Not that it might not still be on the table, just haven't done it. That is how the divine snuck up on me. Which, when I look back at the path of my life, the divine has always done to me. Kind of like, we're not going to tell her why she's really here, because if we did, she would freak out. And we don't adore her when she freaks out. It's not pretty to watch. So we'll sneak in. And so I had a mentor who loved what he did. And that's what I said, do you love what you do, Kevin? Absolutely. And I said, well, my experience is that's not necessarily always true with the people who are ministering, senior ministers. Not always do they love what they're doing. And his response was golden. Gayle, why do you think this philosophy works any different anywhere else? If you love what you do, you will attract people that love what you're doing. And they will do and love what they're doing. And so that's what we're creating here at Genesis, is that container of love, that place where you absolutely know without a doubt, I have a purpose and I'm going to live it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the purpose that your job gives you. You can do it outside of your job. And sometimes you need to sacrifice to really be able to step into your purpose. I could say I sacrificed by moving to Santa Fe, and I would hope you'd look at me and say, seriously, Gayle, you got to live in Santa Fe? That's a sacrifice. So I'm not going to use my story. Dwayne Gaines talks about, for Unity ministers, they all go to school in Kansas at the big Unity campus. And so every ministerial student wants to speak at the surrounding churches. They want to get their feet wet. So they're constantly in touch with all of these churches. Could I speak on a Sunday? Could I speak on a Sunday? And Edwin, like all the other ones, the ministers are kind of like, yeah, not now, maybe in the future. So Edwin decided, and this story is in her book, she needed to be of service without any expectation. So she went to a church that was close to Unity, and she said, what can I do to be of service? And the minister said, well, you could mop the floors. You could vacuum. You could clean. And so she took a big, healthy, okay, I'll be of service. And the more she was of service, the more she did. Not that people recognized she was doing it, not that people thanked her that she was doing it, but she would find little things that hadn't been cleaned before, and she would clean them. She did this, and she just kept doing it, and it started to bring her great joy, because service does that to us, believe it or not. When you're in real service, it brings you joy. Because you realize, I think that that's why we're here connecting heart to heart, is when we're in service. That's when it shows up. Like Johanna said, she gives to this school in Nepal because it's of service to her to get this music, to be able to sing in this language. We all have different ways that service show up. So Edwene is 6 months. She's of service, and she forgot why she wanted to be of service. She had a ultimate, I want to speak on Sunday, or I want to teach a class, but she thought, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to be of service. And then one day, she gets a phone call on a Sunday morning, and it's the minister. Edwene, I have laryngitis and I can't talk. Would you teach the adults on Sunday, and then would you speak for me? That's how the universe answers. That's what it means to sometimes maybe you just have to sacrifice a little bit. So envision your dream. And when I say envision your dream, please remember, do not share your dream with people sitting in cheap seats. Just don't. Because people sitting in cheap seats, they are not going to encourage you. They don't want you to do well. Share your dream with people that are in the arena, that can look at you and say, absolutely, absolutely. And how that looks is that what I want you to do when you start to journal or write your dream down or create a vision board, every time you hear, oh, that's not going to happen. Yeah, but what if it could? And put it there. If that's your dream, put it there. Dream big. Remember, don't limit what is unlimited. That's your human self getting in the way of the co-creation of something that is so grand and so great and brought you here to do good. If we all live from that place of absolute knowing that we are God in form, that we are love personified, and that is all there is, that would shift the entire world. So, and right now I know all of you can think, yeah, but there's this going on, and yeah, but there's this going. Yes, that is true. You don't engage in it. You be the change. You be that 100th monkey that's going to shift and tilt the world back to where it's supposed to be. We are here to be love. We are here to express love. We are here to know love. We can't do that if we are in judgment or in fear. It's why people use it to get our attention. The more of us that are in fear, the more control other people have over who we are. And so that's how you live or find your purpose. And then I'm going to share with you how else the divine will knock on your door sometimes. And so as I share this story, first of all, I want everybody to take a breath. And now take another one. So last Sunday, we had a magnificent Easter Sunday. It was fabulous. Monday morning, I always come in and do the banking. And so Monday morning, I came in and I opened up the envelope that had the money in it. And I realized right away something was not right in the envelope. So I knew who had done, I assumed I knew who had done the counting. And so I texted the person and said, did you do the counting? Yes, I did. And I thought, then there's something really wrong because I know this person. This person is a perfectionist. And I say that lovingly because she says that about herself. And so I thought, ooh, something's not right. So I counted the money, and there was $160 missing. So first of all, another breath, please. First of all, please don't go to, oh my God, who is it? Don't look around at people in the sanctuary. It doesn't matter. That wasn't why the money went missing. The money went missing because our intention is to grow this center. And I have this automatic thing about trust. And so, although I was mindful about the money, lots of people have keys to this building, which means lots of people have keys to my office, which means lots of people have access to that money. That was the lesson. Thank you, God, it didn't happen when there's 250 people sitting here. It was $160. So what? Obviously, that person needed it more than Genesis. The lesson was for me, or for me and the board of trustees, or for me and this entire community, about you're growing. And so if you're growing, set the practices in place now. If our intention is to buy a building, set the practices in place now. And so now there's a new lock on my door and only 3 people have the key. And we have other things that we have set into place. And so did I go to anger first? Yes. Maybe anger, maybe fear, maybe all of it. Maybe a few words that I would never use at the pulpit. But it didn't last a long time. That was Gayle's human self going, rah, 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 rah. Told you so. Rah, rah, rah. And then it was like, no. No, I am not going to respond in fear. There is a great, and that wasn't fear by being mindful. There is a difference. So I love this quote. I'd shared it with Kyle Sunday morning. And it is from Confucius. Love your neighbors, tie up your camels. So we love each other. And we bless whoever needed that $160. And we just move on because now we have tied up our camels. And that's what we needed to do. So if you catch yourself in your mind looking at somebody or wondering, I wonder if it was them, stop yourself. That's bad energy for you, not for them. Remember, we call to us. So the lesson for me was, you want to grow this center, be mindful. Be mindful of the gifts this community gives every single Sunday. So I wanted to share that with you because we say we're transparent. And I will tell you, my first response when it happened, and I sent out the email to the Board of Trustees, is, I don't want the community to know this. Why? Not out of shame. I didn't want you to know because I didn't want the energy of gossip and trying to figure out who would do that, or all the talk, all the chatter. Who would do that? Why would somebody do that? Rah, 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 rah. It's human nature. Stop yourself. I'm sharing it with you because there's a lesson there for all of us, and because we promised we would be transparent. And so I can't hold on to a secret if I've promised you that we will be transparent. So, does that have anything to do with divine purpose? I think so. I think it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call to me, who wants to see every seat in here filled. Put the steps in place now. And so let's pray. Taking a deep breath and just releasing, especially that story. Just shake it off. Literally, shake it off. Thank you. Shake it off. Shake it out of the room. Johanna's going to do this wonderful song that we're going to close with that's going to clear the energy, but don't let that attach to you. And so we know Father, Mother, God, Spirit is right here, right now. It is in and through and as every single one of you. You are here because you answered the call to be here. And so now let's take that one step further. If you've answered the call to be here, why not answer the call to live your life's purpose? That which is compassion and love lives within you. The answer to everything is love. Everything. Top to bottom, inside out, all of it. Wrap it in love. It is the truth of who you are. It is the truth of who I am. And so I know that each one of us is here today because we want to open up more. We want to be more. We want to say yes to who we are. As Heather said in her reading and in her prayer, be yourself. And the tagline to that is, everybody else is taken. Everybody else. You have a calling, answer it. Why? Because when you don't, the rest of us feel it. The rest of us know it. So I invite each of us to take another breath. Breathing in that essence of the divine that is over us, around us, through us, as us. It is in the cells of who we are, and it is calling us back to love. That expression, that knowing, that oneness. There is no separation. We live and breathe in that container of good, which I choose to call God, and it doesn't matter what we call it. It is in the air that you breathe. It is in the beat of your heart. It is in that knowingness. I will do my best. I will do my best. And so I invite you to love. I invite you to love. I invite you to love. And it is with that invitation that I just say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to live my divine purpose every single day. Thank you for putting up with me when I knock it out of the park and when the ball just stumbles down the stairs. Thank you for being community, for showing up and saying yes to yourself. You're angels in body form. Don't forget it. I don't. So I turn all of these words over, knowing that as it is spoken, it is done in the mind of God already. And so with that, with my human self, I let go. It's taken care of. It's manifested in the mind of God. We just have to open up and say, yes, I am ready to receive. And it is in that yes, I let go and let God. And together we say, and so it is.